How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Kevin, and basically on this channel we just break down different editing techniques. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can make something like this.
In the early 1990s, New York's skate scene was raw, fast, and unapologetic. In 1994, James Jebbia opened Supreme on Lafayette Street, a skate shop built so riders could roll right inside. It quickly became a hub for skating, music, and underground art. And from those streets, Supreme grew into one of the most influential brands in the world.
Right, so basically I'm going to be going through some bit more advanced collage animation techniques in this video, and I'm going to run through how you can fully create that scene one. If you want the whole uncut version of this, I'm going to put it on my Patreon. But yeah, I think you can take a lot of the techniques that I use in the scene one and kind of apply it throughout. So look, it's an option, it's there for you if you want it, but yeah, that's what we're going to do today. First of all, I'm going to go through some of the footage that I'm going to be using. Then we are going to edit it all in Photoshop, and then we're also going to put it all together in After Effects. So if that's something that you're into or want to learn how to do, stick around, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. I have basically drawn out some really shitty storyboards, and I'm going to put these on the screen now. So yeah, I kind of had a general idea of how everything was going to look, and then put it into ChatGPT, and then I got something like this, which is a bit more structured and looks somewhat professional. So then we can use this now just as a reference, as a loose reference of how things are going to look and feel. So this is the app that I use to organize all the different footage that I'm going to be using in a project. So as you can see, I've broken down the 5 scenes here, and today we're only going to be focusing on this scene 1. In here you can see these are the assets that we're going to be using, and yeah, it's just really handy having everything in one place at one time. As you can see, in scene 4, I use some 3D models, and you can also bring them in. So yeah, it's just really handy to organize everything like this. Yeah, it's called Eagle, and I'll leave it in the description below. Saying that, let's just jump into Photoshop now and start creating this effect. So what we're going to do is create a 1920 by 1080 artboard. I'm just going to make sure the artboards are on. Just going to create that, and I'm just going to get rid of these guides here. The reason why we have the artboards here is that if you are going to do more scenes, and I kind of go through this in the longer video, you can just obviously add these here, and it just makes your life a lot easier because you can see exactly what you're doing. Just for this video, I'm not going to be using them, so let's just delete them for now. Let's just come over here. First thing I'm going to be doing is dragging and dropping in this image of the Brooklyn Bridge. I'm just going to scale this up into a position that I like it. Yeah, something like that feels good. Maybe even a bit further down. Now we're going to start cutting this out, which kind of is the most painstaking part of this, but yeah, it's all worth it. So we're going to rasterize this layer, and I'm just going to come up here to this polygon lasso tool, and I'm just going to do a rough cut along this bridge, and we can always come back and clean this up later. I'm just going to loop this all the way around. I'm going to deal with those more detailed parts in a sec. Right. So once we have that, we can just right click, and we're going to do a new layer via cut. That's going to take out a massive chunk in our image. So now we need to fill these parts in. So in order to do that, I'm just going to basically select here, all the way over to here, and I'm just going to come up here all the way around, and we can just generate a fill. And we're just going to say replace with sky. Let's see if that works. Right, so we've gotten a few images back. I think this one's going to work the best. So what we can do is just take that. We're going to just merge this. Do the same again now just on this area. What we can do is just come over here, content aware fill, and hopefully this just matches it in, something like that. Look, it's not going to be too important to get everything looking perfect here, because the bridge is going to be in the way of it, but it's more just to blend this all in, just to hide these dead spots up here. So let's just do it over here as well. Right, so that's looking pretty good like that. But now you can see that we have this big outline from that rough cut. So what we're going to do now is just come up and get our pen tool, and we're just going to come and we can just press P on our keyboard and just deselect that. We're going to try to basically match these lines here and just get a bit closer to the edge so we can get rid of this sky here. So let's just come in here and do so like this. Just come up here and get rid of that. Just delete. All these little edges here, they're still going to show up, and we do need to make them a bit more closer to the edge. So in order to do that, I'm just going to use the eraser tool, kind of bring up the size a bit and just make sure that your layer is selected, and we can just come in here and just erase in around the edge. I have my settings here, and yeah, I just not a hard brush, sorry, super soft, just to kind of blend in. And a good test is just to basically press V and you can just drag this down. So we know that our animation is going to be this bridge coming up, so you can see what looks weird and what doesn't. So anything in between these lines is looking super weird. So we're going to have to come back in here and with our pen tool, we're going to just get rid of the middle here. And this is going to be pretty important for when we're bringing our videos and stuff in, so you can kind of see through the bridge. You'll kind of understand that a bit later in the tutorial, but yeah, it's very important to get rid of these lines here. Right, so you can see now when this moves, it just feels a bit more integrated into the scene. Last thing is just to get our eraser and just get rid of this part up here. I'm just going to delete these three little beams here. So just get that lasso tool again. I'm just going to take these here. Perfect. Delete. Deselect, and let's just bring this back to its original position. So it was there, and now you can see that when we're basically going to be starting here, and this is going to zoom up, and we're going to be losing this bit here that's cut out. So we're going to need to basically bring that back in. So what we can do is just maybe get rid of these edges here. Great. And then let's just do a rough selection here and just up and around like this. And then generative fill, and let's just see if that will give us a bit of a beam up here just to kind of complete the image. I think that one looks the best. We can just come here and merge that layer in, and with the generative fill you'll see that it gives you this extra bit of background, and we're just going to basically delete that out of there just so we have this one beam. Delete and deselect. Grand. Now we can just bring this back up into its original position, and that's looking pretty good like that. What we can do now is just select our artboard, and let's just give ourselves a tiny bit more room here to work with. So something like that and like that. And yeah, because we're going to be working in a 16:9, just having that bit of extra room in your artboard allows you to kind of make this collage just give you a bit more space to work with. So this is nearly ready to bring into After Effects. We're just going to add in a black and white filter over this, so we can just come up to image adjustments. Let's just add in a black and white, and you can play around with these settings, maybe something like that. And we're just going to do the same here for the bridge, and I can just add in some noise here like this. You can just hold control to zoom in just to see how much it's actually affecting it. So something like that's looking good, and we can just add that same noise to the background. That's looking good. We have our bridge here and it's all moving, and now this is ready now to export into After Effects. What I usually do if I had multiple storyboards, for example here, I would select both of these, come up to export and artboard the files, but because we only have one, we can just select this one and export and artboard the files. And I'm just going to call this scene 01. Right, that does its thing, and now we are going to open up After Effects. So these are the three video clips that I'm going to be using and integrating into this footage. Right, so once you have your clips ready and you kind of know what way your scene is going to look, this is where we can have a bit of fun. So let's just first of all make a new composition, 1920 by 1080, and I can call this scene 01. Just make this maybe like 7 seconds, and let's just go okay, grand. Right, let's just drag this into our main comp here, and let's just bring in our Photoshop file that we've just created here, and we're gonna keep these settings, and we can just drag and drop this into the scene like so. Right, so this looks exactly how it did in Photoshop, which is good, and we have a bit of room to play with as well, so that's also good. We can just double click this, and using the motion tools plug in here, which will be in the description below. It's fully free. I'm just going to uncomp this, come back to scene 1, and we can just uncomp this again. We can just delete these 2 nulls here and we won't need them. Let's just do something that we probably should have done in the last stage. Let's just call this bridge, if I can spell it. And let's just call this background. We're going to drag in this footage now and we're going to start rotoscoping it out. So let's just come over here and we can start with this guy here. So let's just bring this into our videos, come down here and let's just drop this in over. Right, so this is a 4K file, so we can just align it, scale it down and play this a bit. So we're going to have him probably start here, so we can just drag this clip to here and end, yeah, something like that. Right, so we have the section here that we want and we can just double click this now and it's going to open up this window here. And now we can come up to our rotoscope tool, and at the first frame here I'm just going to do an outline. You can hold control and click and drag out just to make your brush a bit bigger. Let's just go roughly around him here. It should be fairly easy because the background really distinguishes him from the shot. So yeah, you can just correct that a tiny bit just so it knows. Great. And I'm just going to increase the feather by a lot and then I'm going to reduce the chatter to something like that. And we can just play 1 or 2 frames just to see that it's tracking them correctly. Kind of happy with that. So I'm just going to press this freeze here and then just let that do its thing. The new After Effects is really good at this, especially with shots like this that are like super distinguishable. It should do it pretty accurately. So now it's done, we can just press this X here and bring this over and make it a bit bigger for you. And as you can see, it's cutting out pretty nicely. Great. So we can just hide him we can actually just call him over bridge. You can just hide him and we'll just give him a orange color just so we know. And now we're going to drag in our other footage. So let's just come up to our videos and let's just do the girl and the guy here coming in. This is also a 4K file, so we need to just bring this down a bit. And let's just start it here and drag on a bit, something like that. Great. And we can just come back to the start here, double click again, and let's just do a mask around her. Probably not the best frame to do it on, so let's just come back here. We're going to wait until the guy comes in, so let's just delete that first selection that I made, and I'm just going to select both of these guys here. Great. And we're going to just increase the feather again just to make this a bit smoother, and we can increase that reduced chatter as well. And let's just skip forward a frame just to see that they're getting both of them. So now we can just freeze that as well, and that's going to do its thing. Right, so we can just press that X again and bring this across so you can see it a bit better. And yeah, that's done a good job cutting these guys out. Last but not least, we're going to call this people on bridge, and we can just give that an orange color as well. Last but not least, we're going to drag in that last clip of the person balancing on the rail. So we can just drag this video in, bring it in here and scale it down a bit. Let's just see the moment where, so we want it from somewhere like this when he lands, and yeah, that should be long enough. So we can just Control Shift D just to split that clip, bring it down to the start, and let's just double click in. Same thing again. You can just come here and rotoscope this out at a good frame. So this is probably the strongest frame here, and we can just select him or her. Let's just increase the feather and reduce the chatter, and let's freeze that. Great, so we have our 3 video clips now, all rotoscoped out, and now it's kind of just position them how we want to, and we're going to just call this balance bridge, and we can make that an orange color. Happy days. Right, we can just hide these other 2. I'm going to focus on this guy first, right? So basically he's going to be jumping over this bridge. We're just going to scale him up a bit and place him where we want. So he's going to start there. I'm just going to bring down the resolution here a bit. We want them probably a bit more here, and then we can scale them down a tiny bit as well. At this point here, I want him to kind of come behind the bridge and then kind of go over the bridge just to sell the effect that he's kind of jumping over it, right? So We're gonna just drag him underneath the bridge here, and now he's behind it. It's just right click and we're going to pre-compose this, and we're gonna just move it into its own composition. Now we can just make this orange again, and at this point here where we want them to actually come over the bridge, we're gonna go Control Shift D just to split the clip and bring him over the bridge like that. Then it goes something like that, and the effect is already nearly there. We just need to make that transition a tiny bit smoother. So what we can do is just here is just make a little mask, come down to our mask here and just invert that, and then we can just kind of make this look a bit nicer. And we're just going to just feather this out a tiny bit, set a keyframe on our mask path here, and then a few frames in we're just going to bring this down like that. And it's something really small, but it kind of just sells the effect a tiny bit more, and yeah, it's not as jarring on the eye. So that one was really simple, and we can just now come to our clip, and I'm just going to make this black and white. So let's just get a black and white effect, match it into the scene a bit like so, and we can just add in a noise like this and increase it a tiny bit. Right, so that's kind of matching into the scene, and we can just select both of these effects and Control C and Control V on this clip. Grand. That is the first one done, and now we can do the people on the bridge. So we want the placement to be here, and it's going to be underneath the bridge here, so we don't really see their feet. So we can just drag and drop that underneath the bridge. Right, so now we can see the positioning on this one, and yeah, that's looking pretty good. She's hopping up onto the bridge like that. You can just do the same thing. We're going to pre-compose this, and we're going to just call this people on the bridge, and we're just going to put a mask in just so we can't see the bottom of their feet and stuff coming up here. So you know, select them and just do a mask like this, really rough, and we can just press M, invert, and that should solve that issue. That's looking pretty good. And now we can just come back to our guy jumping over the bridge, take the two effects that we've used on him and just paste it onto these guys. We can also just give these a orange color. I'm just going to add in a levels effect just to kind of bring up, contrast this a bit like that, just so they blend in with the scene a bit more. Now let's just position our last balance on the bridge here. We want him to be on the other side. So what we can do is just come up to our composition, transform, and we're just going to flip horizontally. So now that makes a bit more sense like that. We can just kind of overlay on like that. Yeah, that's looking pretty good like that. So we can just right click, pre-compose, and let's just delete that. And what we can do is just come in here, and because we want the clip to go on a bit longer, we can just settings, make this maybe 4 seconds, and we're just going to duplicate this. We can pre-compose it, and then we can just come to time and reverse it, and then just drag this down. Right, so that just gives us a bit more time to play with here. And what we can do is just add in that effect here on this guy, the black and white effect. We can add in our levels. Brilliant. Right, so that's kind of our base scene laid out. We can just drag this guy up a bit because we are now going to zoom in on our bridge and kind of have that initial effect happening, right? So what we can do, first of all, we're going to just go new null, and we can just Control Alt and Home just to center the anchor point. If you are on a Mac, I'm not too sure what the shortcut is, but you can come in here, transform, and then just do center anchor point in content layer, and that gives us our anchor point in the middle of our null. And we can just center that to the middle of the scene, select all of our layers, and then just link it to this. We basically want this to be where it all falls to, so we're going to just come in a few seconds, maybe like 1 second, bit after it, and give it a keyframe. And now we're going to give it a position keyframe, and we're going to give it a scale keyframe. Press U, and let's just zoom in here something like this. We can just come here and give this an easy ease, something like this. Right, so then we zoom out like that, which is great. When we're here, we're gonna just want this bridge to kind of zoom up. So we're gonna give it a position keyframe, bring it to maybe here, and we can just drag this down like that. Give it the same easing. So then that zooms up like that, and it just kind of creates a bit of like a parallax effect, which is nice. We can start this balancing on the bridge a bit later, so he's not cut off like that. Bam. That's looking really good. Now what we're going to do is think about how we're going to transition into our next scene. To do that, I'm just going to pre-compose all of these, put them into a new layer. So I'm going to go scene 1 main, and I'm just going to bring in a new camera and make that a 3D layer. That means that we can kind of use our 3D camera to zoom out of this, which I just feel like it is a lot smoother and stuff when you're transitioning through frames. So that's playing like that, and now we're going to want to zoom out. So let's just give it a keyframe on our position. I'm going to just make this a 2-node camera, our position, our point of interest, and then we're going to zoom in somewhere here and transition out of the scene like that, and then just easy ease both of these again. Let's just give motion blur to all these, and now we can kind of see how the scene is looking. Now we can add in some effects just to really bring this to life. So we're going to come back into our composition that has our camera and our scene in it, and we can start adding in some effects. So let's just call this frame, right? And we're going to add in a posterized time on this, and let's just make it like 12 frames per second. This is going to slow down your computer a tiny bit. So that just gives it a bit more of that kind of gritty feel to it. Right, so now let's just add in that supreme texture that kind of offsets the composition here. So what we can do is let's just focus on the couple jumping up first. So let's just drag and drop in our supreme logo, and we can just scale this down, call this logo 01. What we can do is just bring it underneath the people on the bridge here, and we can just scale it to kind of cover both of them. And we're just going to duplicate the people on the bridge, and on this bottom one we can just offset this a bit, just so we can kind of see a tiny bit of an outline like so. You can kind of see there's a duplicate of them, and we're just going to make this logo a track matte of the bottom layer here. As you can see, that kind of gives us that little cutout effect, which is a really nice touch. Now what we can do is just do the exact same for the balancing on the bridge. So we can just duplicate this, and let's just remove that track matte, and we can just scale this down, something like that. Duplicate our balance on bridge, bring the logo just in between the two, and then make it a track matte like that. Now we can just offset this a tiny bit, and then you're getting that type of effect. That's kind of how the main effect comes together. So last thing I did was use my mixed media script. Obviously that's going to be fully free for anyone who goes over to the Patreon, but I'll basically show you what it does, and you don't necessarily need it, but yeah, it just makes life a bit easier. So this is the script here, and I just press difference, and it adds in all these layers here with the presets already in here. So obviously we don't need frame rate because that's already being done. So we can just bring that up to the top, and our noise, we can just reduce that a lot. We don't really need that. And our texture main, I didn't use that, so we can delete that as well. As you can see, this kind of just adds in a bit of camera shake, flicker, and noise and frame rate. So all I did was come down to our lighting effect layer here, and we can just scale this down and just recolor it to that red here, and just reduce the opacity a good bit. And that shape layer is animated, so that's just going to do its own thing. And as you can see, the camera shake is just a bit too much. So in order to fix that, we can just come into our camera shake, and in effects, transform, we can just play with these. So position, the wiggle is way too much, so we can just do something like 2 and 3. Scale, we can do something like 0.5 and 0.5, and same with the rotation. Just come down to our rotation and do 0.5 by 0.5, and that should just reduce that a lot, and it just gives a subtle kind of wiggle there. And yeah, that's looking really good. So that was today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, if you want to see the breakdown of all the scenes, that's over on my Patreon, along with the scripts and all the footage and project files and stuff that I used for the video. Yeah, I think the main thing about this effect is kind of pre-planning the footage that you need and trying to think outside the box with the placement of the footage on top of the photos. But yeah, saying that, thank you for watching, and yeah, cheers.